let's go ahead and get started. My name is Laura Winnie. I am the Humane Educator for DuPage County Animal Services. Thank you so much for joining me. Tonight, we're going to talk about do-it-yourself enrichment. So a little bit of Zoom housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions at any point throughout our presentation, feel free to throw them into the chat box. I'll look at the chat box at the end of the presentation, so I'm not going to answer questions as we go along. We'll wait till the end and we'll have some time there. I did have everyone automatically set to mute and their video off just to prevent any lagging or complications with Zoom. We are recording this to post to our YouTube page later. Also, right now, I'm going to throw into the chat a link to our program survey. Please fill that out at the end of the program. I always like to get feedback, know what we're doing right, what we could improve on, and also suggestions for future programs. It's always fabulous to get ideas from the people who are attending. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, so with the housekeeping stuff out of the way, what are we going to do tonight? Well, we're going to go over what enrichment is and then different types of enrichment. There are lots of different categories of enrichment. Depending on who you ask, there can even be as many as 20 categories of enrichment. We're going to stick with the main 5. And because in my opinion, as a layperson, I do not have a huge background in animal behavior and animal sciences. As a layperson, these 5 seem to be the most user-friendly. Okay, so these make the most sense to me, and I hope they make sense to you as well. So they'll be social, occupational, physical, sensory, and nutritional enrichment. Let's dive right in and talk about, well, what is enrichment? What does that mean? This term is most often heard in regards to zoo animals. Zookeepers, animal keepers with animals in captive spaces will use enrichment as a way to keep their animals healthy and to keep them engaged. So you can see here that we have a jaguar in this picture, obviously in a zoo environment because it looks like they're opening up a birthday gift of some kind, okay? And the idea behind enrichment is to let the animals express natural behaviors in a safe way. So that jaguar is having to work for probably a food item of some kind. So in the wild, the jaguar would need to hunt. They would have to use their brains, they would have to plan, and then they would have to work on it. So the idea behind the enrichment for that birthday gift is they still have to use those cognitive functions. They still have to plan, they have to investigate, they have to strategize. And it's not just, oh, here's your steak on a plate and you're bored the rest of the day. Okay, it's a way for them to be active, be engaged, and not just physically active, not just moving around, but actively engaging their brain and their senses. And this applies to our pets as well. I mean, we all think that our pets have the perfect life, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to be able to just lay on a couch all day and have our food handed to us? That sounds amazing. Until you get really sick and then that's all you do and you get bored very, very quickly, right? I mean, yeah, it's great for like the first time. And then you're bored out of your mind and you start to go a little cuckoo. So with our animals, we have to understand that what we see as the lap of luxury can kind of be for lack of a better term, a gilded cage. It is wrapped up all nice and neat, but nothing to engage them with. So boredom often leads to undesirable behaviors. Just like if you have children who are bored and they will make their own fun, maybe by drawing on your walls, maybe by doing worse things, Pets are the same way. We're all animals, right? Pets are the same way. So they will find ways to alleviate their boredom. And chances are it's not going to be in the way that you would hope they would spend their time. We got to think about how different their life would be if they were not in our homes. So a feral dog could spend as much as 70% of their day hunting and looking for food. Okay, so that means they're on the move. And just like those jaguars, they're using those cognitive skills. They are problem solving. They're using their senses. Now, with our canine companions, 8 or more hours of their day typically involves being at home on the couch on their own. And then even when we are home, we can't always devote as much time to our dogs as we would like. So not only is it that 8 to 9 to 10 hours when we're not even there, but then you have the additional hours when we're taking care of our children, when we're taking care of housework, when we're sleeping, when we're doing things that need to be done that don't necessarily directly engage our dogs. So it's very difficult for our animals, all animals, not just dogs, to get their normal needs for movement and stimulation, to get those needs met. When they are understimulated, these animals are at an increased risk for destructive, undesirable behaviors. So when you think about those dogs that dig a lot, those cats that scratch up a lot, or maybe they scream at you in the middle of the night, rabbits that are trying to escape, all of these behaviors that we don't really like, the animals are just trying to express who they are, right? That bunny's just trying to bunny. It's just trying to get out and move around and explore things. That dog is just trying to dog. There can even be self-harming activities. So dogs that get super stressed out may lick themselves a lot. Cats might scratch themselves a lot to the point where they actually damage their skin and their coat. So the good news is that there are so many ways to avoid this, okay? So we all know about properly exercising and having toys for animals, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, because most toys are meant to engage one of these enrichment categories. And if that's all they have, if all they're doing is that, physical moving around, then that's letting all the other aspects of their life fall beneath the radar. So we need to be looking at multiple categories of enrichment to really have this fulfilling life for our animals. And there have been a lot of studies on the benefits of enrichment in zoo animals that can be applied to our pets as well. It reduces those self-injurious behaviors. It reduces stereotypical, so the ones where it's just repetitive. Okay, pacing is one you sometimes see in zoo animals that are not properly engaged. And it also improves their learning ability and slows cognitive decline as they age, which is great. One of the things they say about us humans too is learning new skills will help prevent brain issues after we retire. That's why they're always encouraging folks who retire to volunteer, learn a new skill, travel, do these things to engage your brain. Because as my mom used to say, if you don't use it, you lose it. Okay. She was talking about my toys that she was going to donate to charity, but it applies here as well. Okay. And again, we're all animals. So this applies to us, this applies to zoo animals, and it applies to our pets. Now, where can we get enrichment? When you're at a pet store and you're in like the toy section and you see a toy that is very, very confusing and you're like, what is this for? Chances are it's an enrichment item. They can be rather expensive, but you can make versions of them at home. And that's what we're really going to focus on today, is the stuff that we can do at home. So later on in the presentation, we'll go over different toys, food puzzles, and even training things that you can incorporate into any of your pet's lives to increase this expression of natural behaviors, decrease those undesirable behaviors, and overall just have a happier, healthier pets, which leads to a happier, healthier bond with you, and overall a happier, healthier home, right? So let's dive into some of the different categories. We've got social enrichment, and this is exactly what it sounds like. It's hanging out with others, okay? And it's important when you are looking into getting maybe a pet for the first time that you really understand what these pets need in terms of social engagement with others, okay? Example, guinea pigs in the wild are herd animals in South America, which I think is absolutely delightful. I think I would pay good money to be stampeded by a herd of guinea pigs because I think that sounds really fun, but that might just be me. It's okay. So they're very social animals. Rabbits as well also live in very large social groups. Dogs, as we know, descended from the wolf, who live in packs. So they are social animals. You need to pay attention to their needs, their species needs, but then you also need to pay attention to their specific individual needs, okay? So a lot of times people think, oh, dogs need social interaction, perfect, I'll just take them to the dog park. The dog park, unfortunately, isn't a great solution for everybody. One, typically it's a very, very large area and it is hard to monitor your pet, other people's pets, what's going on with the people. Are there wild animals, squirrels, chipmunks, anything like that going on? And it can be very overwhelming for our animals. There's just so much to see and do, and they can get frustrated because it's too much. Here, when we are thinking about taking our animals to a dog park, we really want to pay attention to our pet's body language to see if this is an appropriate outlet for their social enrichment. And what I mean by that is not all dogs are dogs, okay? In fact, a very slim number of dogs love every dog. It's actually a very small percent, it's like 20%. Most dogs fall more into dog selective. You know, they're kind of like us. They got a few best friends that they'll hang out with and enjoy on a regular basis. Everybody else, no thank you. Then you have those dog aggressive dogs. They really do not want to be around other dogs. That might come down to their socialization as puppies or maybe even some bad experiences. That can happen at a dog park. You can have a dog, squishable dog that has a bad experience and then because of that becomes very uncomfortable around other dogs. So paying attention to body language is going to be key to making sure that one, your dog is enjoying the experience, and two, that everybody is safely enjoying it. So when I talk about that, we're going to be looking at this little video here of two dogs interacting. And the important thing to understand about this with dogs playing is a lot of time it mimics fighting. And it can be very, very confusing for humans to understand, ooh, is that a good growl? Is that a play growl? Was that a, I'm gonna bite your face off growl? What's going on there? So we're gonna look at this video and I'll point out some key things of what we want to see when we have dogs interacting with each other. So the main thing here you can see is that both dogs are reciprocating the actions, right? They take turns. They also have very loose, wiggly body language. Like, wow, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you. And then they back off. And then the other dog goes, okay? So there's a lot of, I knocked you over, you knocked me over, woohoo, going on. When you have one dog constantly going after the other dog and the dog is trying to get away, that's when it's more concerning. So you want this very playful, very reciprocal relationship where they're taking these turns. And in general, you can see that they're both getting a kick out of this interaction, right? They also take breaks, which is great. So that's what we want to see with that. Now, when we talk about social social enrichment, it can also be cross species, okay? Many animals can coexist with other species of animals. The key here is, let's say you have a dog at home and you are looking to bring home a cat. You really want to get a kitten, but you're afraid of how your dog is going to do with it. The main thing here is you don't want to just throw everybody in a room, close the door, and hope everything goes okay. All right, because that kind of introduction is going to be super, super stressful, and it's going to bring out the worst in everything. All right. Instead, we want to do really slow introductions. So in the example of our kitten, just brought a kitten home and we want to introduce them to our dog. We give the kitten one room and we let it explore completely on its own. That's its room. That's where it can get comfortable. Once the kitten is feeling comfortable, maybe a couple days, maybe it's a week, maybe it's more, then we can bring it into another room. At the same time, we're introducing the smell of the kitten to our dog and letting our dog get used to that scent. Then we're going to start introductions through a barrier, like through a door. Maybe we smell each other at the bottom of the door. You want to reward good choices. So if that dog sniffs, but doesn't growl, doesn't lunge, doesn't try to scratch or anything, reward the sniffing. That's great. Sniffing is great, okay? And pay attention to body language. So in the case of kitten on one side of the door, dog on the other side of the door, you want a human on both sides. Pay attention to the body language. Is the kitten getting very upset that there is a dog on the other side? Okay, we went a little too fast. We need to break it up. Okay, we need to go slower. Take it back a few steps. Go a little bit slower. Once that's going okay, then we can do a barrier that you can see through, like a baby gate. Okay, again, rewarding those good choices. From there, short periods of time together in the same room, but maybe we keep the dog on a leash so that nothing happens. Again, rewarding good choices. Even the dog ignoring the kitten is a good choice. Okay, that's great. That's fine. Slowly but surely, we can start making those introductions more and more. We want to make sure that we're introducing both animals to smells. Maybe we swap out rooms. So we had the kitten in this bedroom. The dog normally sleeps in this bedroom. Maybe one night we switch. So the dog is sleeping with all the kitten smells and the kitten is in the dog room smells, getting used to everything. And it's very important to understand that sometimes it is not a match. Some dogs, some cats, some rabbits, some guinea pigs are never going to feel comfortable with a different species in the home. And that's okay. All right. It's sad for us when we have this perfect idea in our brain, but understanding that the stress of living with an animal that they are just not going to feel comfortable with can cause serious health problems. At that point, it's up to us to make the responsible decision for what is best for these pets and find another solution. Now, when I talk about different species, of course, I mean us as well, right? I mean, we're a different species, and of course we want to interact with these animals that we brought into our house. So we need to make sure that when we have a new pet or a new situation going on, that we are reserving time to spend with these animals. It strengthens our bond and it will decrease a lot of those undesirable behaviors because we are letting them express desired behavior, playing, cuddling, all these fun things, the reason we have pets in the first place, right? Also, our presence enhances other types of enrichment. So when we do like these games and things, sure, you could use something and throw it on the floor and walk out. Then that's just a game, right? But when you're there and you're leading the game, or you're actively helping your animal figure out the game, then that adds another layer to that enrichment. And that's exactly what we want. We want overlapping styles of enrichment. So let's talk about some of the different kinds of enrichment that we can look at. So occupational enrichment. It's just like it sounds. Your animal has a job to do, and they do it, and they enjoy it, and they get a reward at the end. This can be very, very important for some animals. So when you're looking to add a family member to your home, it is important to do your research, because if you are looking for an example, a couch potato dog that's going to cuddle and snore with you all the time, and you bring in what's considered a working dog, a sporting dog, or a herding dog, genetically, those animals were bred to do something. So it is in their genetics to be actively engaged in a thing. Shepherds, retrievers, mastiffs. You know, mastiffs were built to be really, really strong so that they could do a job. Terriers, even those tiny, cute little terriers, Dorothy's dog and Wizard of Oz Toto, that's a Cairn Terrier. And they are named Cairn Terriers because their job was to hunt rats in cairns, in the rock walls, in the rock formations. That was their job. So even that cute little fluffy thing that you think, oh, that's going to be a lap dog, that's perfect. They were specifically bred to be pest control, and that's what they love doing. So understanding what is going on with your dog and what their genetic predispositions are will also help you figure out worthwhile, successful enrichments for them, okay? Now, not every dog has to be a lassie, okay? They don't have to like go out in the field and rescue Timmy from a well. Jobs don't have to be huge commitments. There's just something they have to think about and work through, and then they get a reward at the end. That's all a job is, right? That's why we do our jobs. I love my job, but I'm not sure I would love it as much if it didn't have a paycheck at the end of it, okay? I need that paycheck to live and do other things that I love. It's all about balance. So with our animals, when we ask them to do something, of course, we want to give them a reward that they enjoy. So food puzzles are a great way to engage their brain, their senses, and ask them to do a task. And then they get the reward at the end. Nose work, having them find things, is a fabulous way. It can be that treat, or you can go even further in, which we'll talk about just here in a second. Obedience training, basic stuff like that. Sit, stay, fetch, all these things, drop it. These are tasks we're asking our animals to do, and then we reward at the end. The best kind of training, and I do highly encourage you to check out our YouTube page. We have some videos on Pet Training 101. The best forms of training ask our dogs to think through the process. We don't force them into something and then reward it. We have them figure out what we want, because it's more mentally tasking and it's more rewarding at the end when they figure it out. It's just like when we were in school and we had a ginormous test. You know, you sat there for an hour, but at the end you were exhausted because you worked your brain so much during that hour, even though your body was still. It's the same thing with our dogs. There are also sports that you can do with your dogs, and you can go full on. They have clubs. There's all sorts of things that you can do, especially for some of those more advanced breeds of dogs that are lean, mean, sporting machines, okay? But let's look at a video. We're gonna start small. So this is a great first time nose work food puzzle thing that you can do. It is a muffin tin with some tennis balls in it. So I believe this is Plum. She was adopted out a few months ago, and her job is to find the treat that's underneath the tennis balls. So let's watch. So you can see she's sniffing and then she's investigating. She's trying to figure it out. Okay, how do I get the up? So she uses her nose in this particular instance to move the tennis ball and get the treat inside. There's no wrong way for a dog to do this. I have seen dogs that are pros at this and they figured out how to flip over the muffin tin and then they get all the treats at once. Okay, let's start with something basic like this. I would say even more basic than this is just to have that box with stuff in it. Paper, fabric, balls, and then sprinkle some treats at the bottom so that it's a little bit easier. With each one of these enrichment items, you want your dog, your rabbit, your cat to succeed. So you want to start them off small, set them up for success, okay? Then as they figure things out, up the complexity level. Make it more challenging for them as they start to understand the game. Now, I did mention these sporting events. You can go full on crazy depending on what kind of dog you have and what your interest level is. And you can be featured on television with your incredible, amazing dog. So let's take just a second at this. This is an agility competition. And you can see that's a Papillon. So that's something that we would consider probably a lap dog. And this dog has learned hurdles, hoops, all these things, weaving poles back and forth, up and down ramps, through a tunnel. And it's following specific pattern, going through specific things, and as fast as it possibly can. Now, obviously, when you have something like this, you don't start with everything set up, right? We start by, I'm gonna hold this fruit in front of your nose and let you hop over or go between these two poles. Don't even have the hurdle there, right? Just leave them between the poles. Oh, you went through the poles, you get a treat, awesome. Then maybe we have them hop over a low setting. Depending on how tall your dog's legs are, you can up the ante and bring those up. You know, there are many, many dog parks in our area that do have some agility things. Those can be great. However, remember what I said about dog parks, they can be very distracting. So for something like this, if you are seriously interested, I would make things from items you have at home, okay? And start there. You can have them learn how to stand on a book and then jump over the book, all that kind of stuff, right? So there's no rule that says you have to have this crazy expensive agility equipment at your disposal in order to do agility. If you're going to go for the majors, sure, go ahead, invest. I assume there's prize money. I don't know why else so many people would do this, but that's just me. It is also very, very fun to teach your animals how to do different things and to see the joy they have when they master something. They get pride in their work just the same way we do when they figure out something complicated. Now, that being said, also just like us, they can get frustrated if they're not figuring it out. So a good rule of thumb is at any part of training, ask for a behavior 3 times. If they don't get it, give it to you. If they haven't figured out what that cue is, ask them for something that they already know so that you can keep up that positive reinforcement. Like, okay, good, thank you, you did a sit. I know you know how to do a sit, that's perfect, thank you. You can break these things into very small steps. So, like I said, when we're doing the little hurdle bars, maybe the first thing we do is we walk through in between 2 posts. Yay, we walked through 2 posts, good job, woohoo! Go up from there. One of my coworkers, she taught her dog how to do a handstand. And first thing she had to teach her dog was how to back up. So she would do that by rolling a treat through his legs, and then he would back up in the treat and she would reward him. Yes, that's what I wanted, thank you. So then he figured it out. Oh, I just back up. Then it was putting back legs up on a book. Okay, great. From there, more books. Great. From there, it was touching a paw to the wall, touching one of those back paws. So she was able to go from backing up to back legs are up against the wall, front legs are on the floor right at the base of the wall. And that's several weeks. So start small, keep your expectations basic, and pay attention to your animal's body language. You want them to enjoy the training session, so you don't want extended sessions. We're talking 5 to 10 minutes of training at a time, okay? And then we go to something else and we do maybe another 5 to 10 minutes later on in the day. Wonderful. Okay. There are some great food puzzle toys out there, and they can be very, very expensive. So my recommendation is, so you don't break the bank, is just use recyclables. Use things that you don't mind if they get a little slobbered on or a little torn up, and start easy. So maybe we put the food on top of the thing, or maybe we have it open with it inside, so it's very easy to see. And then the next step is we have it partially closed and then fully closed. So egg cartons are great for this, toilet paper tubes, plastic bottles, rolled up fabric, cardboard boxes, as I mentioned, that find box that we can use even before we do the muffin tins. So, and this is true for all kinds of animals. The key here is going to be figuring out what motivates your animal. For example, we have a video here of a bunny, and most of their diet is hay. So they have access to hay 24/7, but they get pellets and greens once a day. And those pellets are really high value. They will do a lot of work for those pellets. So let's take a look. We've got some of those little rabbit pellets hidden in this egg carton. And this adorable bunny is on the look. So his nose is in there, and bam, has found the pellets. An even easier way to do this is by playing hide and seek with your pets. One great thing that you can do is called scatter feeding. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And hidden treasures and snuffle mats. So snuffle mats I featured in my 2-Minute Tuesday this week, but I do have one here that I will show you when it's show and tell time in just a minute. And using your environment. You know, you don't necessarily even have to bring anything else new. Almost everybody has a towel that they don't care about that they can throw on the floor and have some kibble underneath. Or, you know, a few tiny pieces of their favorite vegetable or their favorite fruits. All right, these are all different ways that we can engage our animals' brains and their senses. Okay, so when I talked about scatter feeding, there are convenient ways to feed your pets, and then there are enriching ways to feed your pets. And the bowl is definitely convenient. Okay, we know where they are, we know where the food is, it's easy to clean up, it's easy for us to pour, but it can be a little boring for the animals, and it can go real fast. So we have a video here that shows the difference between bowl feeding versus scatter feeding. And scatter feeding is where you throw the kibble wherever. So this particular person is in a park, and he scatters it over what looks like to me a half acre of land. I don't do that crazy. I have a smaller backyard, so I use my backyard. And depending on the weather, I might use like my bricked patio area or the grass, depending on what's going on. But take a look at the difference here. So he does a little bit of a countdown. How long does it take these 3 particular animals to finish their food by eating in a bowl? And I'm actually surprised that they last that long. I have beagles. It's down in seconds. I mean, it's just gone. Okay. So total time for the bowl feeding, little under 4.5 minutes, which again, I'm actually pretty impressed. So here we have the scatter feeding. And we just have the scoop of kibbles and we're just throwing it wherever. And then the animals have to go find it. And what's fabulous about this activity is it takes something that would normally last a few minutes and it goes much, 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 much longer. And at the end of it, the animals are going to be happy, worn out. So it's going to be a good worn out. Sniffing releases endorphins. So the more they have to use that nose to find their food, the more endorphins they're getting flooded into their brain, which is always a good thing. They're also moving around a larger area, so they're getting more physical exercise as well. And this is tying into that foraging behavior that we see with dogs who are on their own. Even dogs that aren't on their own will exhibit this foraging behavior. As I mentioned, I've had beagles my whole life, and I stopped getting amazed at how many times my beagles can find pizza crust under snow. It does not matter how deep the snow is. It does not matter how small the pizza crust is. They will find it. And this way, when I do the scatter feeding in my yard, one, I know that they're getting the proper food and that they're exhibiting that behavior in a safe way. Plus, I know that they're going to be that happy tired for a good portion of the morning after breakfast, which is fabulous. So you can see the scatter feeding has already been going on for 16 minutes. Everybody is still engaged. Everybody is still actively looking for that food. You can see no one's getting frustrated. You're not seeing any tense body language. And whew, okay, we did a shake off because we're done. Like, oh, that was so much fun, and I'm done. So almost 20 minutes there for the difference. That is very, very impressive. So let's talk about some of those food puzzles a little bit more in depth that we can do on our own. How can we make our animals work for it? Google is your friend here. There are some fantastic things that you can find on Google. Humane Society of the United States, species-specific organizations have a plethora. For example, for rabbits, House Rabbit Society has amazing enrichment activities that you can look at. We have resources available on our website and on Facebook as well. Okay, so now I'm going to show you some of these activities that I've been talking about. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you guys can see me a little bit better. Okay, perfect. All right. So one of the things that I mentioned is a snuffle mat. So there are several different kinds that you can buy in the store, but they are a very easy thing to make on your own. All you need is a plastic dish mat. So this is where it looks like just tiny little holes all throughout a piece of flexible plastic. Okay, so you can see a hole right there. And then you just need strips of fabric. This is a great way to recycle old t-shirts that you don't know what to do with, or maybe you had a blanket that got ripped up, like a fleece blanket. I personally prefer the fleece over the t-shirt ones because the fabric pieces stick a little bit better together, making it a little bit more difficult for the animals to find it. This is a great thing to do with pretty much any animal, but with any new enrichment activity like this, you definitely want to do it supervised, okay? Especially with our bunny friends, they can tend to chew on the thing rather than the treats in the thing. We want to make sure that they're not ingesting any of those harmful plastics or anything like that, especially if you know that your dog is a destroyer. We want to make sure we're doing this supervised so that when they're done finding the treats, oh, that's it. Okay, we take away the thing so we can use it again. And they are also very, very easy to clean. You just throw them in your washing machine, which is fabulous. Okay. Another thing that is a really, really easy dog toy, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for rabbits or for cats, but take a used water bottle. Now you definitely want to remove the plastic ring and the cap because if those accidentally get swallowed, they're a very bad choking hazard. So you want to cut off the little plastic ring, remove the cap. You can put some treats inside. And then if you have any old socks, unwashed is great because then it has all your stinky foot smells on it, okay? Just stick it into the sock and tie off the end. You may even see toys like this in the pet store. It sounds like they have a plastic water bottle inside. That's because they do. That's exactly what they have inside them, is a plastic water bottle. That crunch is fabulous. Again, this is something that we want to make sure we are doing supervised with our pets, because once they get through the plastic to the treat, we don't want them accidentally ingesting any of the plastic in their enthusiasm. Definitely want to make sure we're only doing that supervised. Another thing you will definitely have around the house, toilet paper tubes or paper towel tubes. These are so versatile. So an easy thing is just cut little lines. I'm going to see if I can see that. Oh gosh, let me zoom in a little. There we go. So just cut little slits all along the sides here, okay? It doesn't have to be pretty. What's great about crafting for our pets is they are not Martha Stewart judgy. So it doesn't matter if it looks pretty at the end of the day. All they care about is that it's fun, that you made it, and that you're going to be doing it with you, right? They're basically like our moms when we presented her with macaroni necklaces, okay? They are definitely of the opinion that it's the thought, not how pretty it is. So we've cut little slits all the way around. I'm just going to fold them down. Just like that, so that it closes up the end. All right. So I've closed up the end, I've smushed it a little bit so that it's all closed. And then I put some treats inside, maybe some catnip. For our bunny friends, maybe this is how I give them their daily dose of pellets. You can even go easier than that and just pinch the ends and fold. So you don't even have to go all crazy with the fraying at the end. You can just pinch it into a ball. Again, it's not pretty, but they don't care. And then what's fun is it'll rattle around, it'll make noise, they'll be able to smell it. Our cat friends really enjoy batting this thing around when it has that catnip in there. And if our rabbits chew on this, since it's made out of cardboard, it will be digestible. We don't want them, you know, having a constant diet of cardboard, but a little bit isn't going to hurt them the way that a plastic something would, okay? Another thing we can do is actually make little balls. So this one takes a little bit more patience. You have to cut it up into strips. So I'm just cutting along and cutting little circles. And then eventually when I have all of them, I just overlap them into balls. So I'll put another one, and another one. This is another thing, you can put something inside, maybe a little bell. If you have a cat collar that got broken, save the bell. And then you can put that inside this cardboard ball, new cat toy, all right? And if it gets gnawed on, if it gets batted into the water bowl, that's fine. You can easily make another one. Another great one that we can use for our cats, definitely, and possibly for our bunnies, little puffball. So there are lots of instructions on the internet on how to make a pom-pom. Same idea, except that with this, you just have one long end, so you can dangle it around and use it. Now, we can use this with our bunnies as well, just tying it on their pin so they have something fun to nibble on. The thing there is, though, you want to make sure for our bunnies, you're using all natural fibers. So you don't want any of those synthetic polyester nylon blends. You need 100% cotton. Again, in case they ingest a little bit of it, we don't want any plastic things getting lodged into their gut. Also with yarn, it is the classic kitten plaything, right? Just a ball of yarn, let them go for it. There is a major health risk with letting our cats play with yarn, especially unsupervised, because as you know, they will gnaw, and eventually break off pieces of the yarn. And if they ingest that, it can get tangled, literally get tangled up in their gut to the point where they may need surgery. So anytime you're using yarn with a cat, do so supervised and then put it up someplace where they cannot get to it when you're not around, because that's just an unnecessary vet expense that nobody wants to do, right? Nobody wants to pay $3,000 because they got into our yarn stash, and no cat wants to go through that procedure, and no vet wants to have to do that, okay? So make sure that we are securing our play toys for when we're not around so that our pets can. Another easy thing that we can do with, maybe if we have children in the home or we enjoy crafting ourselves, so construction paper is very, very versatile. Go back to your elementary school days and make an accordion fold. So you take a single strip and you go back and forth and back and forth. And of course, I did not think to prep this before, so you guys are getting the full experience. So back and forth, all the way down. And I'm gonna rip it off and say that. We're gonna pretend that's an entire sheet of paper. You can do this with 1/4 of a piece of paper. That's gonna be perfectly fine. Then take your Chanel stems, as is the proper term for them now, and get a Chanel stem. If you can figure out how to open it. I do not have children in my home, so I'm always learning how to deal with these craft items. Wrap it around the center and fan out. Now, of course, if you did a full page, that would be much, much bigger and much more impressive, but there you go. Now, this is something that is great for bunnies. You can put it right on their pin and the paper is safe to chew on. As soon as the paper is gone, make sure that you remove that Chanel stem. You don't want them gnawing on the little polyester pieces or the metal. And then for our kittens as well, it can kind of look like a little bird in flight, especially when we hold the end of it and let it dangle in front of them. Okay, perfect. Another simple toy that you would never imagine in a million years, at least I didn't. You can take a single pipe cleaner, sorry, Chanel stem, take a single Chanel stem, cut it in half, and make a little tube out of it by wrapping it around a pencil. So hopefully you can see that. I'm just twisting it around the pencil. There we go. Pull it off. And you've got a little Chanel stem tube that sort of looks like a fuzzy little caterpillar, which I imagine that's why cats go crazy for this one, is because it kind of looks like a little insect, a little bug. You would be shocked at how much fun this can be for our cats, especially young kittens. This is a ball because it doesn't weigh that much. So when they squat it, it really flies and it's great. Along the same concept, you can even just crumple up some tinfoil, crumple up some paper into a ball, sprinkle some catnip in there, and let them go to town. It really can be that simple, folks. It does not take Martha Stewart levels of craftsmanship to make something that your pets will enjoy. So those are some ideas. There are many, many others on the internet. Like I said, look for those species-specific ones. We're going to talk about some other options for enrichment. So what about physical enrichment? This one gets a little confusing for folks because we think, oh, physical, moving around. Not quite. This is more about the space they live in, their physical space that they live in. And this is absolutely vital for every single pet. We want them to engage in their environment in different ways. We want to switch up the things that we offer for our animals, whether it is those toys, different bedding, and even different views. So maybe you have a cat perch that's attached to a ledge. Maybe switch up windows where it is so that they can see out different sides of the house. Make sure to rotate items on a regular basis. Know what your animal's favorite things are, though. You can always do a toy preference test or a bedding preference test to see what things they like. The easiest way is just to have everything available and then keep a record of what they go for first. Switch it up. I mean, sometimes it's whatever is closest to the refrigerator. Okay, like that's my favorite place to sleep, is the bed that's closest to the refrigerator. So pay attention. Maybe they just have that favorite spot. Okay, and this is fabulous because it does overlap that enrichment by switching out what's in their physical space with what they're doing visually with their senses, and have those overlapping effects. And the more we can add in, the more enriching it will be. Now, definitely we can use technology to help out, but just like when we use technology ourselves, remember, we're all animals. We want to use it on a limited basis and always supervised, okay? You do not want to have the electronic babysitter on 24/7 because it'll get boring. It'll lose its luster, all right? So cats, there are specific cat games that you can download for your phone, and they're little, like, one of them is a mouse that runs around on the screen and they have to tap the mouse. Some animals will be super into this, some won't, okay? So we have a video here of some cats playing on an iPad. And you can see this kitten is very engaged. And you can see this particular cat doesn't really care, all right? So that's gonna be key, is determining your pet's level of engagement. If it's something that they get super obsessive about, you definitely do wanna limit it. Maybe we save it for really special occasions. For example, my dog Cooper is obsessed with animals on television, absolutely obsessed with it. I will bust out my phone and baby animal videos at the vet's office to decrease his stress levels. But when we're at home, we try to limit how much TV he watches, which is a weird thing to say about a dog, because he can get frustrated by not being able to get to the physical thing. So he can see it and he wants to engage with it and he can't. So for example, I have a video here and he is crying. He is licking the screen, which is super fun, let me tell you. And if we let him go unabated, if we just let him continue doing this, eventually he will paw at the screen. And one, we're afraid for our TV safety, and two, we're afraid for his safety. So understanding your pet's level of engagement and what is a good amount where they still are enjoying it, but it's not getting too frustrating or too boring, you know, kind of the opposite extremes there. Okay, there we go. This is an easy enrichment to tie in with lots of different things because animals use their senses for everything. That is their superpower. It is amazing how great their senses are compared to ours. I mean, dogs are trained to smell diseases inside the human body. That blows my mind. So we often will get upset when animals are using their senses for nefarious means. For example, foraging the pizza crust through the 3 feet of snow. But we need to understand that this is a natural part of the way they experience the world. Understanding that when we go on a walk, our purpose for walking as a primate is moving, right? We're moving, we're getting our physical exercise, we're seeing the things, maybe we're greeting our neighbors, maybe we're going to a place, you know, we're going to the bakery to get our donut in the morning and then we're coming. The dog's purpose for a walk is to smell all the things. So letting your dog take the lead, letting them decide where they want to go, and just letting them smell for as long as they want, as long as it is safe to do so, is going to engage their brains in a way that physical movement never will. You can go even further and have them use their senses for detection, and you can play scent games with this. You can also just give them exposure to different scents with exploration containers. One of my favorite examples of this is actually from my zoo days. They used to do different spices for the lions. I believe they would do it for all the animals, but the one that was my favorite was the lions. And the male lion there, his name was Timba. His favorite scent was taco seasoning. He thought taco seasoning was the coolest thing ever. And anytime they sprinkled some taco seasoning out there in the grass, he would roll in it and just cover himself in the taco seasoning. And he looked like the Cheeto kitty because he was all orange, and it was adorable. And you could just tell that he was having a great time, like, woohoo, favorite smell. We don't like it when our animals do that, when they find poop or dead animals and they want to roll in it because they think that smell is really awesome. So giving them outlets to that with non-offensive materials is going to be a bonus for everybody. We can also engage their other senses. Calming music does have an effect on our animals the same way it does on us. So especially during down times when we're all stressed, maybe it's homework time, maybe it's right before bed, we play calming music to get ready for relaxation. That's going to work too. Visual access is a fabulous way to keep our pets safe and let them engage with the outside world. This is especially true with our cats and our rabbits. Having them see the outside world, but being safely inside. So catios are a great way to let our cats safely engage with the outdoors. Or you can teach your cats or your bunnies to walk on leashes and harnesses. It can happen. It's really, really fun, and they can get super into it. It does take a process though, because the first thing a cat does when it's got a harness on is it flops over and protests. I don't like this. So you definitely have to work on it. And then it's amazing how well animals will adapt to that once they realize the benefits. Now, I'm sorry, we are running close to time, but I do want to show this really quick video first. And this is scent tube games. So we have this video on how you can play a scent game. You can make it with a PVC pipe and just drill some holes into it and put different scents. I mean, you can use feathers or hair from other animals, you know, whatever you might have access to, or even just some essential oils on a Q-tip. But you do want to check to make sure that those essential oils are safe for your animals. Now, the key thing here is she puts it inside the metal container so as not to contaminate the tube. You don't want too many scents going on in the tube. And of course, I love this video because it does have beagles. So she has a bunch of different tubes. Only one of them has the correct scent that they're looking for. And Coffee comes. She tells her to find it. And she brings the one that has the correct item in it, okay? So a good way that you could start this game is start with finding a treat in an open container. That one's pretty easy. Then the treat is in a closed container. Then that closed container has a scent associated with it, okay? From there, you can get more devious with where you put them. Maybe you have the animal in a different room while you hide it, and they have to find the scent. You can get super involved, or you can stay super simple depending on you and your pet's engagement level. Now, nutritional enrichment is just what it sounds like. Animals like different foods, textures, flavors, and delivery methods. But the key here is we always want to check with our vets to make sure that it is safe for these animals to have these foods. There are definitely some great people foods that are healthy and safe for our animals. For example, carrots, green beans are great little treats that we can give to our dogs and even just add in maybe different rices or broths. You definitely want to go with the low sodium route there. Check with your vet to make sure that the latest research supports that, okay? as awesome as Google is, it does not beat a veterinarian's degree. So definitely check in with your vet if you're thinking of adding in some of these nutritional methods. There are some times when our dogs aren't interested in food or our cats aren't interested in food. Switch it up how you do these things. Do that scatter feeding, do those puzzles, use their kibble as ways to reward treats. You never want to switch from one type of meal to a different type of meal. You definitely want to do a gradual changeover or a blended option, because going from this brand of dog food to this brand of dog food just overnight can be very upsetting for their stomachs. So we definitely want to make sure we do our research and check in with our veterinarians on what we would like to reward our animals with and how we would like to reward it for them, to provide them that variety. That we love variety too, right? My father ate peanut butter and jelly every single day as a kid for lunch, and he tried to do that to me. And I was like, are you a crazy person? Now I hate peanut butter and jelly. I was the only third grader who hated peanut butter and jelly because my dad insisted on giving it to me every single day for 2 years. We don't want to do that to our pets, right? We don't want them to get bored with what we offer them. We want to be seen as the fun. We are the givers of fun. We are the givers of good things. That's what builds up our bond and makes overall for a happy, healthier life. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. I will check the chat for questions in just a minute. So if you have anything, feel free to throw those in there. Before I get to the questions, I do want to give a little shout out for our upcoming webinars. In 2 weeks, we will have Shed for small animals. So shelter, healthcare, exercise, and diet for those smaller pets. And it's going to be a whirlwind. We're going to go through a lot of different tiny little animals. Guinea pigs, hamsters, mice, bearded dragons, parakeets, and if we have time, a few more. Okay. We will also be looking at solutions with animal services in November. That's actually, I believe it's Shelter Appreciation Week that week. So understand what services we provide and who can access those within DuPage County. How are we different from other animal controls, even in our region? It's very, very important to know what we can offer to all of our residents. So I highly recommend you check that one out. And then right before Thanksgiving on the 18th, we're going to dive into holiday pet safety, not only keeping our pets safe, but also keeping any visitors or any decor that we have invested time and money into, keeping everybody safe. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. Let me check the chat box, see if we have any questions. All right, wonderful. So we do have some great questions here. Yes, I will be offering this recording on YouTube, and I am trying to do a thing where everybody that signed up or registered for the webinar initially will get the link once it is posted to YouTube. I'm trying to be better about that. So hopefully within probably early next week, I will have this posted to YouTube and sent out to everyone. So we have one question about a 10-month-old Aussie. Yes, they are a very, very intelligent breed of dogs. So I'm not surprised that he is super smart. And want to work with him on agility, but he is reactive. Are there any good places to go get classes? So yes, there are definitely some good places to get classes with agility. For that, you can also just work one-on-one with a trainer. One thing that has me a little concerned about his reactivity is I feel maybe we should address that, especially since he's only 10 months old. Because a lot of times when left unchecked, the reactivity tends to get worse. So my recommendation would be to work with a trainer on the reactivity, because anywhere you want to do agility, there's going to be lots of other dogs around. Competitions, shows off, things like that. So, okay, wonderful. You are working with him and he's getting better. That's fabulous. A friend of mine, like I said, my coworker, she does do agility. And I believe she might have some recommendations for places that are available in our area. So I will reach out to her to see what her recommendations are. And then especially for that one-on-one training, what she has recommendations for, and I will get back to you, okay? I also do have a list of trainers. If there's ever a behavior that you feel is just a little bit beyond your own skill level, then it's always good to reach out to an expert. We've all had that one dog that, you know, we've had dogs our whole lives and everything's been great. And then there's the one that just tries all of our skills and shows us how little we actually know. So I will also include that as well, just in case you need it, or if you want to pass it along to a friend. All right, wonderful. If anybody has any questions. Okay, thank you so much for joining me, everyone. I really appreciate it. And if at any point you have questions that come up later on, you think about them, or you have something completely unrelated to today's topic, but you still want to know, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is humane.education@dupageco.org. My phone number is 630-407-2808. I am always happy to answer questions, hunt down the experts to your questions, and get more information. That is one of our biggest services that we provide at DuPage County Animal Services, is being the place to get answers or figure out where to get answers for our residents. So absolutely reach out to me if you guys have any other questions. I am always happy to oblige. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Have a great rest of your evening, and I hope to see you again in 2 weeks. Bye.